Greetings, survivors and friends, I'm SHADOWFRAX, and this is the top 5 things you didn't know about Rust. Probably. Well, maybe you do. I mean, it all depends on how long you've been playing and how much attention you've been paying, doesn't it? As a wise man said, there's no limit to what you don't know. So, let's see how you do. Number 5. The Accident Book. Back in July of 2015, Rust was a very different place. The sphere tank was having an upgrade and bone armor made you look like you'd lost a fight with a pile of dog chews and string. But it was on the 16th of that month that a number of players suddenly noticed they'd received a curious new item in their Steam inventories. The Accident Book. Or at least it wasn't called that at first, according to reports from those who got it. Some say it was initially a gift copy of Rust, then changed to a very rare generator, before finally becoming the Accident Book. So, what on earth happened? Well, something that Gary was fiddling around with at the time was Steam Workshop integration, which eventually led to us being able to collect, buy, and trade skins. And it seems that, according to the book's description, he messed up somehow and a bunch of people got whatever it was meant to be. In fact, you would only have received it if you'd played on the dev server on that particular day. It's untradeable, unmarketable, doesn't serve any purpose, and you can't read it or anything, but only a few people have it in their inventories, so if you're one of them, then you own a rather rare piece of Rust history. Well done. Number 4. Benchmark. There are a lot of things you can do in Rust if you know the correct console commands, especially if you're an admin, but one you might not have come across that anyone can use is this. In the main menu, simply press F1 to open the console, type in benchmark and hit enter. What follows, after some loading, might be disturbing for some and confusing for others, but mostly consists of Gary running around a server, hitting rocks and trees and calling people sluts. It's a demo that was originally recorded on an older version of the procedural maps, so sometimes he's under the scenery or floating above it these days, and after it's finished, a web page will open in your browser, although the link is now redundant, so what's all that business? Well, the benchmark command was initially added back in 2016 as a performance test that you could run voluntarily and that would then spit a bunch of results back at you to share with Facepunch, your friends, your mum, your dog Colin, etc. Initially, it ran a load of different tests such as generating a ton of character models and various procedural maps, but at some point it was just changed to Gary calling people sluts, and now Facepunch tracks everyone's performance directly, so it isn't really needed. Still fun though. Number 3. The Palette. When sign painting was added to Rust in 2015, it unleashed a whole generation of budding Leonardo da Vincis on the game, and thanks to pen tablets there have been some rather impressive art attacks over the years, this all despite the palette we're given being limited to only 20 colours. The original plan, as stated, and I'm not sure if this is in any way still the case, was for us to at some point have to use crafted dyes like charcoal, blood, mud and inks, and so this limited palette was initially only meant to be a stopgap. However, what you may not know is that if you go off menu, as it were, and click on the spaces in between the swatches, you can actually access a whole array of colours. It appears that in the background, something like this is going on, and although you can't see it, if you were able to select the right pixels, you could potentially turn your Pollocks into Rembrandts. Of course, there are other ways to produce a masterpiece thanks to plugins, but who knows, maybe one day we'll get some nice RGB sliders and customizable swatches. Or maybe we'll be forced to paint with our own cack. Number 2. The Waterfall. One of the biggest lessons I've learned from gaming is always check behind waterfalls. In fact, waterfalls are probably the most rubbish place to hide something now thanks to their propensity for concealing stuff, and apparently the only waterfall to exist in the whole world of Rust isn't interested in bucking that trend either. This was a fairly recent change, so I'm willing to bet a lot of you don't know about it yet, and if you haven't played on the Happy's Island map much, then you may not even have come across the location, but just downriver from the launch site is a waterfall. It looks fairly standard from the outside, but get your feet wet and yes indeed, there's a hidden cave at the base, inside which is an Easter egg, a small reminder of the corporation that left its mark on the island all those years ago. And apparently they had shares in Mountain Dew as well. Who knew? Number 1. The Typewriter. Rust is full of small details, many of them humorous and some of them rather well hidden, but one in particular that you may have missed is located in the offices at the launch site. And I don't blame you if you have, it's not that easy to see up close, plus recently, thanks to a texture downgrade in the area, it's gone a bit blurry, but if you look at the typewriters here, you'll notice that they all still have a sheet of paper loaded into them. Get close enough and you'll find that whoever was last using them left us a message, and it's one that you may have seen before. It reads, "All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy." This is, of course, a reference to that fantastic family comedy, The Shining, and Jack Nicholson's descent into madness whilst rattling around in an off-season hotel in the Colorado Rockies. Brunt Force Trauma's adaptation of The Shining in Rust could have been the reason why this is here, or perhaps it's just a nod to the psychopathic tendencies of many of the inhabitants. So, how did you do? Was any of this news to you? Leave me a comment down below and tell me all about it. If you want to see more videos in this vein, then please let me know with a like and subscribe to the channel for more news, reviews and analysis. You can also join me on Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, Discord and my Steam group, and I shall catch you all soon. But in the meantime, keep calm and stay rusty. Cheerio.